Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the tide either turns toward greatness or retreats into mediocrity. That moment is not determined by fate, nor by the whims of others. It is determined by decision, a power so immense, so definitive, that it can chart the entire course of your destiny. To rule over every decision is not arrogance, it is responsibility. It is to recognize that your mind is the throne from which all outcomes originate. Each decision you make is a decree that shapes your character, your circumstances, and your future. I tell you this, act as you are the best, not because you wish to deceive others, but because you must train your spirit to accept no less than excellence. When you carry yourself with the bearing of the best in thought, in work, in posture, and in will, you begin to attract the resources, people, and situations that match that identity. Now, let us learn the 5 educational truths behind this philosophy. Every human life is a canvas, and the brush that paints upon it is the power of decision. We may be born into circumstances not of our choosing, into families, cultures, and economic conditions that we did not select, but from the moment we are capable of choice, we are handed the tools with which we may change, redirect, or even transform the entire course of our existence. The reason so few do is not because they lack the ability to decide, but because they underestimate the power of their decisions. Each moment we are alive, we stand at a crossroads. Some decisions seem small: what time we wake, how we respond to criticism, whether we finish what we start. Others appear larger: which job to take, whom to marry, what cause to devote our lives to. But the truth is, there are no small decisions. All decisions are seeds. Each one, no matter how minor it may appear, holds within it the potential to shape the days, weeks, years, and legacy of your life. Think of decision as the master lever of your personal machinery. It is the trigger to action, and action is what causes results. Results determine outcomes, and outcomes become your life story. This is not a poetic theory, it is the mechanism by which all success and failure in the human experience unfolds. When you hesitate, you surrender the steering wheel of your life to external forces, to the opinions of others, to fear, to circumstances that could have been redirected had you decided with purpose. But when you choose with clarity, you reclaim command. Your decision becomes a declaration. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I stand for. Every person you admire, the great innovators, the leaders, the thinkers, the builders, began by making a decision. Not once, but repeatedly, they decided not to wait. They decided to rise after falling. They decided to move forward even when no one else believed in their vision. They did not allow external facts to shape their inner truth. Instead, their inner truth shaped the external facts. The person who decides with strength does not possess a magic ability to see the future. What they possess is the courage to commit. That commitment generates clarity. That clarity creates focus, and focus moves mountains. Now here's what's most vital to understand. Indecision is a decision too. It is a decision to allow life to happen to you rather than through you. It is a decision to let others lead where you might have led. It is a decision to remain seated while the stage of life waits for your entrance. And the cost of indecision is always greater than the cost of a wrong decision. For even a poor choice teaches, builds, and prepares, but indecision stagnates. It rots potential. To rule over every decision is not to rush. It is to take control. It is to engage your mind fully, to reflect deeply, but then to commit wholly. And once committed, to act with total resolve. Wavering minds produce scattered lives, but decisive minds cut through the fog of uncertainty like a blade through silk. Let no one tell you that success is a matter of luck or timing. Those are factors, but they are secondary. The primary driver is choice, decision, the mental decree that says, I will not drift, I will direct. Every new level of your life will demand a stronger level of decision from you. Your future cannot begin until you decide to leave behind the habits, people, and beliefs that belong to a lesser version of you. When you realize that every great transformation, personal, financial, emotional, spiritual, begins with a decision, you stop waiting for permission. You begin to understand that you are both the architect and the builder of your life, and that every decision you make either lays a brick in the foundation of your future or removes one. So the question is not whether you will make decisions. The question is whether you will rule over them or be ruled by them. Will you decide who you are, or will you allow others to decide for you? Will you live by default or by design? Every morning you rise is a new election, and you are voting with your choices. Vote wisely, rule completely, because your decisions are not just moments, they are your destiny. What you believe about yourself is the most powerful force in the world shaping your future. Long before action comes belief. Long before achievement comes identity. And the truth is, no one can rise consistently above the image they hold of themselves. Your outer world will always organize itself to reflect your inner world. Your income, your relationships, your level of influence, your ability to lead, all of it bends to match the identity you've accepted or constructed. This is not imagination, it is law. You do not get what you wish for. You get what you expect, and your expectations are set by how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone average, you will subconsciously tolerate average results. If you see yourself as someone meant for more, you will naturally reject mediocrity in all its forms. Identity is not a concept for dreamers, it is a mechanism for doers. It dictates how you think, how you walk, how you speak, how you respond to failure, and what standards you are willing to tolerate from yourself and others. Every great accomplishment is preceded not by talent, but by identity. Talent is a tool. Identity is the hand that wields it. Look to the lives of those who have shaped history, who have changed industries, who have left behind legacies. Before they were recognized by the world, they recognized something within themselves. They acted not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with the person they believed they were born to be. This is why the phrase, "act as you are the best," holds so much weight. It is not pretending, it is practicing, it is the daily rehearsal of a truth you are choosing to step into. You must begin to walk, talk, and think like the version of yourself that is capable of the life you want. Not someday but now, not when others agree, but even when no one else sees it yet, because identity is not given, it is chosen, and then it is earned. Most people live from the outside in. They wait for success to prove to themselves that they are worthy of it. They wait for validation, applause, or opportunity before they give themselves permission to believe. But true growth works in the opposite direction. You must live from the inside out. You must believe first. And then act as though that belief is already truth. In doing so, you signal to your subconscious mind to adapt, to grow, to transform. You begin to rewire what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you expect. When you decide to carry yourself as someone destined for excellence, every area of your life begins to shift. You start choosing different habits. You develop a new level of discipline. You speak to yourself differently. You stop making excuses because you know they don't belong to who you are anymore. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop apologizing for wanting more. And most of all, you stop giving energy to anything that would pull you back into the old version of you. Identity is a thermostat. If you only see yourself as someone capable of lukewarm effort, you'll cool yourself down whenever you start to heat up. But if you raise the thermostat, if you raise your self-image, you begin to generate momentum, confidence, and results that match the new standard you've set. This is why two people with the same talent, the same tools, the same opportunities can end up in vastly different places. One identifies with greatness, the other does not, and so their actions differ, their persistence differs, their willingness to endure discomfort differs, and those differences, repeated daily, shape entirely different outcomes over time. Changing your life does not begin with changing your environment. It begins with changing your identity. You don't need to wait until conditions are perfect. You need only to decide who you are and then show up in alignment with that identity repeatedly, consistently, and with unwavering conviction. You must see yourself as capable, valuable, powerful. You must believe that your mind is a command center, not a suggestion box. You must understand that whatever you identify as, your actions will chase, your results will mirror, and your life will reflect. Because the life you build will never exceed the person you believe yourself to be, change the identity and the outcomes will follow. Excellence is not something you stumble upon. It is not the result of a lucky break or a fleeting burst of inspiration. It is not something reserved for a select few born with exceptional talent. Excellence is the natural outcome of a deliberate life, a life that is built on structure, discipline, and unshakable commitment to doing things not just well, but to the highest standard possible. It is not a moment, it is a pattern. Most people wait for motivation before they act. They wait to feel like doing the work, but those who operate in excellence understand that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. What remains is discipline. What endures is habit. When you have trained yourself to perform at a high level whether you feel like it or not, you have stepped into the realm where excellence lives. It is in this space where effort meets consistency that mastery is born. Excellence must be installed into your daily life like a system. It does not happen by accident any more than health happens by eating one clean meal, or wealth appears by making one smart purchase. The principle is always the same. What you do repeatedly becomes what you are known for, and what you are known for becomes the ceiling of your influence and opportunity. People trust consistency. The world rewards predictability at a high level. When you show up with excellence again and again, you become a magnet for trust, leadership, and responsibility. You cannot separate small choices from big results. What you do when no one is watching determines what happens when everyone is watching. The way you answer an email, the way you prepare for a meeting, the way you start your morning, these things seem minor, but they are not. They are bricks. Each one builds the foundation of the kind of person you become. If you build with carelessness, the structure of your life is fragile. But if you build with intentionality, with excellence in every motion, you create something that lasts. Excellence requires presence. It requires being fully engaged in the task at hand, no matter how simple or mundane it may seem. Greatness is forged in the ordinary long before it is revealed in the extraordinary. You do not rise to the level of your ambition, you fall to the level of your systems. And if your systems are built on laziness, shortcuts, or excuses, you will always underperform your potential. There are no shortcuts to true excellence. That is why so few maintain it. It demands more of you. It demands effort when others are resting, refinement when others are relaxing, and patience when others are rushing. Excellence is not the path of convenience, it is the path of intention, and that path can only be walked one step at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. When you commit to excellence, you set a standard for yourself that becomes non-negotiable. It becomes who you are, and once it becomes part of your identity, your habits naturally begin to align. You no longer ask, "What can I get away with?" You ask, "What is the best I am capable of in this moment?" That one question will change how you approach your work, your relationships, your health, your time, and your future. Excellence is not about perfection. It is about progress with integrity. It is about giving your best, refining your craft, and showing up with pride in the details. It's about being accountable to your own standards, even when no one else would know the difference. Because that difference, invisible to others, is everything to the one who chooses to lead their life with purpose. You will never regret giving your all. You will never look back and wish you had cut more corners. What builds pride, confidence, and power in your character is the knowledge that you do what needs to be done fully, completely, without compromise. That sense of self-respect cannot be bought. It must be earned, and it is only earned through repeated excellence. It is not one extraordinary day that makes a life great. It is 1,000 ordinary days done extraordinarily well. Over time, those efforts compound, and eventually, what once required discipline becomes natural. What once was difficult becomes instinct, and the life you build becomes the inevitable result of the habits you refuse to compromise. Excellence was never an accident. It was always a decision repeated. Confidence is not something handed to you. It is not a trait you are born with, nor a prize someone else can give. True confidence is earned through effort, through discipline, and through action taken in the face of uncertainty. It is not the loudest voice in the room, nor is it the most polished appearance. Confidence is quiet. It comes from knowing, deep within yourself, that you have done the work, that you have paid the price in private long before anyone sees the results in public. Many try to borrow confidence. They imitate the tone, the posture, the style of those they admire, hoping that by looking the part, they might feel the part. But borrowed confidence is fragile. It breaks under pressure. It collapses at the first sign of adversity. Why? Because it is not rooted in anything real. It is a mask, not a foundation, and masks can only last for so long before reality reveals what lies underneath. Real confidence is not a show, it is a signal. It comes from within, not from being better than others, but from being better than you used to be. It is the natural result of keeping promises to yourself, of pushing when it was easier to quit, of preparing when no one else bothered. Every time you follow through when it would have been easier not to, you make a deposit into the account of your self-belief. Over time, those deposits grow, and one day you wake up and realize that you no longer need to pretend. You believe because you've earned the right to. This is why shortcuts steal more than time. They steal your confidence. When you cheat the process, you also cheat yourself out of the growth, the struggle, and the strength that would have been yours. It is in the difficult moments, the ones no one applauds, the ones that go unnoticed, that confidence is truly forged. You cannot buy it. You cannot fake it. You must become it. Confidence is a byproduct of consistency. The person who practices every day, who sharpens their skills, who does the reps even when the crowd is gone, that person walks into any room differently. They don't need to boast. Their posture says it all. They know they belong, not because someone said so, but because they have become the kind of person who is prepared for the moment. Confidence is not a surge of emotion. It is a calm knowing. It is clarity that comes from competence. And competence is not the result of talent alone. It is built, not born. It is shaped in the shadows, in the early mornings and late nights, in the hours when it would be easier to say, "That's enough." But the confident don't stop at enough. They reach for excellent. And in that reaching, they find themselves capable of more than they ever imagined. Fear fades when preparation is present. The unknown becomes less threatening when you know who you are and what you've done to be ready. Confidence silences doubt because it has a memory. It remembers every time you endured, every time you failed but got back up, every time you said you would and you did. That memory becomes your foundation. And when storms come, as they always do, you are not shaken because you are standing on something real. There will always be people more talented. There will always be people with better resources, more connections, or greater head starts. But the one thing no one can give you or take from you is the confidence that comes from personal integrity, from doing the work, showing up fully, and refusing to let fear or failure define your path. You don't build confidence by talking about what you will do. You build it by doing it, especially when it's uncomfortable. Each time you step into difficulty, you stretch the limits of what you think you're capable of. And when you do that over and over, the boundaries of your old self begin to disappear. What once felt impossible becomes normal, and what was once terrifying becomes familiar. Confidence is not loud, but it is undeniable. It is the quiet power of someone who has proven to themselves that they can be trusted by no one more than themselves. It is the strength of someone who knows that regardless of what the world throws at them, they have the inner muscle to meet it. You don't have to wait for confidence, you have to build it, and when you do, you'll never need to borrow it again. The world does not move for the hesitant. It does not rearrange itself for the uncertain, nor does it reward the one who waits for the perfect time. The world makes way for those who are bold enough to step forward when others hesitate. It opens doors for the one who walks with conviction, who speaks with clarity, and who acts with courage even in the presence of doubt. Boldness is not recklessness. It is not arrogance. It is the decision to trust in your vision, to move toward it despite fear, and to place more faith in your purpose than in your comfort. In every field, in every industry, and in every generation, it has been the bold who have left their mark. Not always the most talented, not always the most resourced, but the most courageous, the ones who were willing to say, "Why not me?" The ones who dared to stand when silence was easier, who risked being seen when disappearing into the crowd would have been safe. Boldness is the edge that separates those who imagine from those who manifest, because boldness is action, it is movement, it is motion in the direction of something greater, even when certainty is absent. Most people are trained to play small, conditioned to keep their heads down, to not draw attention, to follow what has already been done. But boldness requires a different posture. It demands that you raise your voice, lift your head, and declare who you are before the world agrees. That declaration might not be met with applause. In fact, it may be met with resistance, ridicule, or rejection, but the bold do not wait for approval, they create it. They are not defined by how others respond, they are defined by how they respond to themselves. To live boldly is to take ownership. It is to understand that no one is coming to rescue your dream. No one will fight for it the way you must. You must be your own advocate, your own initiator. You must be willing to take the first step when no one else does, to create opportunities when none are given, to act as if success is already yours because you have decided that it will be, and in doing so, you begin to influence the environment around you. People take notice, they respond to energy, they follow the one who leads with bold, decisive motion. It is not boldness that leads to failure, it is hesitation, it is waiting too long, thinking too much, and moving too slow. The world changes by those who act before they are completely ready, who speak up before they are fully certain, who believe in themselves before they have every answer. The bold are not fearless. They are simply more committed to progress than they are to comfort. They understand that action is the cure for doubt, and momentum is the ally of courage. You must decide who you are, and then live in a way that is congruent with that decision. That is boldness, that is power. It is not loud by nature, but it is always visible. You know when you are in the presence of someone bold. There is a certainty about them, not because they never question, but because they keep moving forward regardless of the questions. They are rooted in purpose, they have clarity in the storm, they act without waiting for a guarantee. The world does not resist boldness, it respects it, because boldness is rare. It is a statement of inner strength in a world full of outer distractions. It is the refusal to be defined by the past or confined by the present. It is the ability to envision what does not yet exist, and the courage to pursue it relentlessly. And in the presence of that kind of energy, doors open. Conversations change, opportunities emerge, not because the bold wait for permission, but because they create movement that cannot be ignored. You do not need to be perfect to be bold. You do not need to be certain to be courageous. You only need to make a decision that you will no longer live beneath your potential, that you will no longer shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone, that you will step fully into the life that is waiting for you beyond hesitation. Boldness is not a personality trait, it is a choice, and when you choose it consistently, the world has no choice but to respond. The power to rule over every decision begins with a simple, unwavering belief that you are the architect of your life, not a spectator in it. When you choose to act as though you are the best, not from arrogance, but from intention, you shift your identity, discipline your habits, build unshakable confidence, and unleash boldness that compels the world to respond. You stop waiting for direction and begin creating your path. You no longer depend on circumstance, you depend on your consistency, your commitment, and your character. The world does not elevate the one who hesitates. It rises to meet the one who takes ownership, who embodies excellence, and who leads with conviction. Let every decision you make echo this truth. You are not here to merely exist, you are here to lead, to influence, and to leave a legacy shaped by mastery, not mediocrity. So stand up, step forward, and rule not just over your choices, but over the future they create. Act as you are the best, because when you truly believe it, you become it.